My parents didn't come to my wedding 3 years ago. They said they were too busy, but that same weekend they posted photos from a beach resort in Mexico. I built a life without them and became successful. Then one random Tuesday my phone rang. Mom's voice, warm and urgent. "We need to talk. Family meeting tomorrow at the house." I knew exactly why. Yesterday I posted a photo with my new Guards red Porsche 911 Carrera, $140,000. Suddenly I existed again. I sat in my downtown Seattle apartment after hanging up with my mother, staring at my phone like it was a loaded weapon. The screen still glowed with her contact information, and I felt that old, familiar ache in my chest. The one I thought I'd buried years ago. The one that came from wanting parents who actually saw me. My name is Cody, and I'm 32 years old. For most of my life, I've been invisible to the two people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. It wasn't always obvious. They fed me, clothed me, sent me to decent schools. On paper, they were adequate parents. But love isn't measured in square meals and a roof overhead. It's measured in presence, in attention, in showing up when it matters. I grew up in the shadow of my older brother, Trevor. He's 35 now, and from the moment he could walk, he was the golden child. High school quarterback with a cannon arm and a smile that made everyone love him. Full ride to a prestigious university where he got his business degree. Married his college sweetheart, Courtney, in a wedding that looked like it belonged in a magazine. My parents attended every single football game Trevor ever played. Every single one. Friday night lights, Saturday college games, even his intramural leagues in business school. They never missed. I was different, quieter. I liked art and technology. I spent my teenage years teaching myself graphic design on an old computer in my bedroom. While Trevor was throwing touchdowns, I was creating digital artwork and learning to code. My parents called it a hobby. Trevor's football was a career path. My designs were just something I did for fun. I remember my high school art show like it was yesterday, even though it was 14 years ago. I'd worked for 3 months on a digital installation that combined projection mapping with interactive elements. It won first place in the regional competition. Local news came to cover it. I called my parents a week in advance, begged them to come. They said they would try. The night of the show, I kept watching the door. Every time it opened, my heart jumped. They never walked through it. Later, I found out they were at a dinner with Trevor. He'd landed a big client at his first sales job, and they wanted to celebrate with him. My first place ribbon sat in a drawer for years before I finally threw it away. 5 years ago, I started my own digital marketing agency from my bedroom. I had $800 to my name, and a dream that felt impossible. I worked 80-hour weeks, ate ramen noodles for dinner, and slept maybe 4 hours a night. Cold calling businesses, pitching services, learning everything I could about social media strategy and brand development. It was brutal. There were nights I wanted to quit. Mornings I woke up and wondered if I was delusional. Then, 3.5 years ago, I met Amy at a coffee shop near my apartment. I was there at 6 in the morning, working on a proposal for a potential client. She was there preparing lesson plans. She's an elementary school teacher, 3rd grade. She had these stacks of colorful construction paper and was cutting out shapes for some project. I accidentally knocked over her coffee while reaching for a napkin. It spilled all over her carefully organized materials. I was mortified. She laughed. That laugh changed my life. Amy comes from the kind of family I'd only seen in movies. Her parents are warm and present. Her dad tells terrible jokes. Her mom remembers everyone's favorite foods. They have family dinners every Sunday where people actually talk to each other. When Amy brought me home to meet them for the first time, her father shook my hand and looked me in the eye and said, "Welcome to the family, son." I almost cried. I was 29 years old, and it was the first time anyone had made me feel like I belonged somewhere. We fell in love fast. 6 months in, I knew she was it. A year later, I proposed to her on a hiking trail outside the city, on a cliff overlooking the water. Just us, the wind, and the sunset. She said yes before I even finished asking. I called my parents that night to tell them. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. I thought maybe this would be the moment things changed. Maybe my engagement would matter to them. Mom answered on the 4th ring. I could hear the television in the background. I told her I'd proposed, that Amy said yes, that I was getting married. There was a pause. Then she said, That's nice, dear. Trevor just got promoted to regional director. Did he tell you? My chest tightened. Dad got on the phone for maybe 30 seconds. He said congratulations in the same tone someone uses when you tell them about the weather. Then he said he had to go. Something about a game being on. That was it. We planned a small but beautiful wedding in the San Juan Islands. 50 people. Intimate. Meaningful. I sent my parents an invitation 6 months in advance. Put it in the mail with a handwritten note. Called them 2 weeks after to make sure they got it. Mom said they'd try to make it. Try. Like my wedding was a maybe. Like it was something they'd fit in if nothing better came up. 2 weeks before the wedding, Trevor called me. He and Courtney were buying a new house, a big upgrade. They needed help moving. Mom called the next day. She said they'd have to miss the wedding. Trevor needed family right now. The move was complicated. They promised they'd make it up to me somehow. I begged. I actually begged. I said, "It's one day, my wedding day. Please, just one day." Dad got on the phone. His voice was cold. He said, "Trevor needs family right now. You understand, don't you?" The thing is, I didn't understand. I didn't understand how my wedding was less important than helping my 32-year-old brother move boxes. I didn't understand how they could choose so clearly, so definitively, and not see what it would do to me. The wedding day was perfect in every way except the one that mattered most. 50 people filled a small venue overlooking the water. Amy's family was there in full force. Her aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. My friends from work showed up. College buddies I hadn't seen in years made the trip, but there were 2 empty seats in the front row. 2 seats I'd reserved for my parents. 2 seats that stayed empty the entire day. Amy's father walked her down the aisle. When the ceremony started, I kept glancing at those empty seats. Amy squeezed my hands and looked into my eyes and whispered, "We're our own family now." I married her with tears on my face. Happy tears for her, sad tears for them. That night in the hotel room, I made the mistake of checking social media. My parents had posted photos. They weren't helping Trevor move. They were in Mexico. Some beach resort with turquoise water and palm trees. Mom posted a selfie with Dad, both of them in sunglasses, drinks in hand. The caption read, "Much needed getaway with my love. #blessed. #paradise." They'd chosen a vacation over my wedding. Not work. Not an emergency. Not even Trevor. A vacation. They'd lied to my face and gone to the beach while I got married. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed and felt something break inside me. Amy held me while I cried. She didn't say I told you so. She didn't say she'd warned me about expecting too much. She just held me. That night, I made a decision. I was done. Done trying. Done hoping. Done waiting for them to suddenly become the parents I needed. I'd built a life so full, so successful, so happy that their absence wouldn't leave a hole. I threw myself into my business with fury, with purpose, with something to prove, not to them but to myself. My agency exploded over the next 3 years. I landed a major tech company as a client within 6 months of the wedding, then another, then another. Word spread. My team grew from just me to 22 employees. We moved into a real office space downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows. Last year, our revenue hit $3.7 million. $3.7 million. The kid who ate ramen for dinner and worked in his pajamas had built something real. Last month, I did something I dreamed about since I was 16 years old. I walked into a Porsche dealership and bought a Guards Red 911 Carrera. $140,000. I didn't finance it. I wrote a check. The salesman tried not to look shocked. I drove off the lot with the top down, the engine roaring, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I'd made it. Not because of the car, because I'd done it entirely on my own. No help. No support. No family money. Just me. I posted one photo on Instagram yesterday. Me standing next to the car, one hand on the hood, simple caption that read, "Hard work pays off." I didn't tag my parents. Didn't think about them when I posted it. The photo was for me, for Amy, for everyone who'd believed in me when I was nobody. Within 12 hours, my phone rang. Mom. I stared at her name on the screen for 3 rings before I answered. That's when she said it. "We need to talk. Family meeting tomorrow at the house." Her voice was warm, urgent, like we talked every day, like she hadn't missed my wedding, like 3 years of silence was nothing. I hung up and sat there, staring at my phone. Amy came home from teaching, found me on the couch. "What's wrong?" she asked. I told her. Her face hardened. "You're not going," she said. But part of me, that stupid, hopeful part that never quite dies, wanted to go. Wanted to hear what they had to say. Wanted to believe that maybe, finally, they'd realized what they'd lost. I realized something sitting there that night. My parents had been watching my social media all along. They never liked to post, never commented, never reached out. But they were watching, monitoring, waiting. And now that I had visible wealth, now that I had something they could see and measure, suddenly they remembered they had a second son. Suddenly, I was worth their time. Amy stood in our kitchen the next morning, arms crossed, watching me button my shirt. "You don't have to do this," she said for the 10th time. "I know," I replied, adjusting my collar, "but I need to. I need to hear what they want. I need to face this." She shook her head, frustrated but understanding. "Then I'm coming with you." I nodded. I wouldn't have gone without her. The drive to my parents' house took 45 minutes. They live in Bellevue, one of the more affluent suburbs outside Seattle. Big houses, manicured lawns, expensive cars in every driveway. The kind of neighborhood where appearances matter more than anything else. I'd grown up in a smaller house in a different area, but they'd upgraded 10 years ago when Dad's consulting business took off. Now they had 5 bedrooms, a 3-car garage, and a view of Lake Washington. Trevor lived 20 minutes away in a similar neighborhood. I was the only one who'd stayed in the city. I pulled the Porsche right up front, parking it directly in their driveway where they couldn't miss it. Amy squeezed my hand. "Whatever happens, we leave together," she said. I squeezed back. "Deal." Mom opened the door before we even reached it. She must have been watching from the window. Linda, 58 years old, dressed in expensive casual wear. The kind of outfit that looks effortless but costs more than most people's monthly rent. She smiled wide, the kind of smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. "Cody and Amy, right? Come in, come in." Her voice was syrupy sweet performative warmth that felt like nails on a chalkboard. Inside, the house looked like something out of a catalog. Everything perfectly placed, perfectly clean, perfectly cold. Dad was in the living room, sitting in his leather recliner with his iPad. Gerald, 61, reading glasses perched on his nose. He glanced up when we entered but didn't stand, barely nodded. Back to his screen within seconds. Some things never change. The walls were covered in photos. Trevor's wedding, enormous and prominently displayed above the fireplace. Trevor's college graduation. Trevor's high school football photos. Trevor's kids, my nieces, in various stages of growth. I scanned the walls and found exactly 2 photos of me. One was my high school graduation, a small 5x7 frame tucked on a side table behind a lamp. The other was a baby picture, me at maybe 6 months old, on a shelf with other miscellaneous items. 32 years of my life, represented by 2 photos. Trevor's first birthday party had more wall space than my entire existence. Trevor was already there, sitting on the couch. He stood when we walked in, extending his hand. Still had that quarterback confidence, that easy smile. He wore an expensive suit even though it was Saturday. "Little brother," he said. "Nice wheels outside." His tone was friendly, but there was something condescending underneath. That thing older siblings do when they want you to know they're still better than you, even when they're pretending to be impressed. Courtney sat next to him, poised, polished, designer clothes, and perfect hair. She smiled tightly at us. Their 2 kids, ages 4 and 6, were with Courtney's parents for the day. "The adults need to talk," Mom had apparently told them. Mom brought out coffee and pastries from some expensive bakery downtown, the kind with the fancy boxes and tissue paper. She fussed over setting everything up on the coffee table, asking about cream and sugar. Playing hostess like this was a social call. Small talk followed. Weather, traffic, surface pleasantries that meant nothing. Amy's hand found my knee, a silent anchor. Finally, Dad set down his iPad. "So," he said, "you've done well for yourself." It wasn't a question, it was an observation delivered with surprise. Like he couldn't quite believe it. "I've worked hard," I replied, keeping my voice even. Mom jumped in. "We always knew you had potential, sweetheart. Always." The lie was so blatant, I almost laughed. Amy's fingers tightened on my knee. There was this awful silence, where everyone looked at each other. Then Gerald cleared his throat. "Here's why we wanted to talk to you," he said. Trevor shifted on the couch. Courtney looked down at her hands, and my dad laid it out. Trevor's company had downsized 8 months ago. He'd been laid off. Been looking for work, but nothing at his previous salary level. They'd been burning through savings. Then, 2 months ago, they discovered their house had major foundation issues. Needed $80,000 in repairs. Structural damage, not cosmetic. Banks wouldn't give them another loan. Credit cards were maxed out. Gerald continued. "Your mother and I are tapped out. We helped them with the down payment on that house. We've been covering their mortgage for 6 months now. We can't keep doing it." He paused, looked directly at me. "You clearly have money now. We need you to loan Trevor $50,000. The words hit me like a physical blow. Not ask, need, not for me, for Trevor, $50,000. To bail out my brother who'd never needed me for anything in his entire life. Mom leaned forward, her face arranged in concern. "Family helps family, Cody. You understand that, right?" Her voice was gentle, coaxing, like she was talking to a child. I sat there in stunned silence. My brain was trying to process what was happening. They hadn't called to apologize for missing my wedding. They hadn't called to reconnect. They hadn't called because they missed me or loved me, or realized they'd made a mistake. They'd called because they needed money, because I had something they wanted. Amy's hand on my knee was shaking, or maybe I was shaking. I couldn't tell. Trevor spoke up. "I'll pay you back, man. I just need some time to get back on my feet." His voice was earnest, almost convincing, but all I could think about was my wedding day. About those empty chairs. About Mexico. About 32 years of being second best. I found my voice. "You want me to give Trevor $50,000. Gerald corrected me immediately. "Loan. We're not asking for charity. A loan that would be repaid. With interest if you want. Professional. Business. Family helping family." I looked at each of them. Mom's pleading eyes. Dad's expectant face. Trevor's hopeful expression. Courtney's uncomfortable silence. Then I said the thing I'd been thinking since I walked in. "You're asking the son whose wedding you skipped." The room went silent. You could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Mom's face flushed. "Cody," she started. "We explained that. We had prior commitments." Amy spoke up, her voice clear and firm. "You were in Mexico. We saw the photos." Courtney shifted uncomfortably. Trevor's jaw tightened. Trevor broke the silence. "That was 3 years ago. Let it go, man. Let it go." Like my wedding day was something trivial, like their absence was a minor inconvenience I should just forget. And suddenly, 3 years of pain came pouring out of me. Every missed event, every dismissal, every time Trevor was prioritized, every time I was invisible. The art show, the birthdays, the graduations, the wedding, all of it. "You weren't too busy," I said, my voice rising. "You just didn't care." Mom got defensive. "We gave you a good childhood, Cody. We provided for you. A roof over your head. Food on the table. Education. What more do you want?" I stood up. "I wanted parents." "Trevor got parents. I got landlords." Gerald's voice was sharp. "Watch your tone. We're still your parents." I looked at him. This man who'd spent more time at Trevor's football games than at my entire life. "No," I said. "Parents show up. Parents care. You're just people I share DNA with." Mom started crying. The performative kind. The kind she'd used when I was a kid and didn't fall in line. "How can you be so cruel? After everything we've done for you?" Trevor jumped in. "I never asked to be compared to you, Cody. This isn't my fault." And technically, he was right. But he'd benefited from it his whole life and never once questioned it. Never once stood up for me. Courtney finally spoke, her voice quiet. "We're really desperate, Cody. Please." Then Gerald played the card I should have seen coming. "If you don't help your brother, he could lose his house. Your nieces would be affected. Think about them. Guilt. Using 2 little girls I barely knew because their parents had never made an effort to include me in their lives." Amy stood up, pulling me toward the door. "We're leaving," she said. We were almost out when Mom dropped the bomb. "We thought you'd be more understanding," she said, her voice suddenly cold, the tears gone. "Given that we're updating our will next month." I stopped, turned around. "Excuse me?" Gerald stood up, straightened his shoulders. "We've been planning to distribute our estate, the house, the investments, everything. We were planning to split it between you and Trevor. 50-50. Mom stepped closer. "But family loyalty matters to us, Cody. How you respond now, in Trevor's time of need, it shows your character. It shows us what kind of son you really are." The threat was crystal clear. Help Trevor financially, or get written out of the inheritance. The estate was worth approximately $1.2 million. Not that I'd ever thought about it, but hearing them use it as leverage made my stomach turn. Trevor was sitting on the couch, and I swear I saw the ghost of a smirk on his face. This was planned, coordinated, a setup. Amy's hand gripped my arm. "Let's go. Now." We walked out. Got in the Porsche. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. Amy didn't say anything until we were 5 blocks away. Then she exploded. "They ambushed you. That whole thing was a setup. They didn't want to reconnect. They wanted to extort you." I drove in silence, my mind spinning. I'd thought nothing could hurt more than them missing my wedding. I was wrong. This was worse, because now I knew for certain that I'd never been their son. I'd been an asset they could use when convenient. That night, lying in bed, I got a text from Trevor. "Bro, I didn't know they were going to threaten you like that, but seriously, I need help. Can we talk? Just us?" I stared at the message for 20 minutes. Was Trevor being genuine, or was this another manipulation? I didn't know anymore. I didn't know who to trust. I didn't even know if I could trust my own judgment. Amy was already asleep next to me. I turned off my phone and tried to sleep. Tried and failed. Against every instinct and against Amy's explicit advice, I texted Trevor back the next morning. "Fine, just us, lunch." I picked a sports bar, neutral territory, public enough that nothing could get out of hand. Tuesday afternoon, slow time, mostly empty. I got there 15 minutes early, ordered water, waited. Trevor walked in looking different than he had at the house, less polished, more tired. His suit wasn't as crisp. His confidence seemed dimmed. He slid into the booth across from me, ordered a beer, and for a minute we just sat there, two brothers who barely knew each other. "Thanks for meeting me," he finally said. I nodded, waited. He started talking, and I'll admit, he sounded genuine. Told me about the layoff, how brutal it had been, how his identity had been wrapped up in being successful, being the golden child, and suddenly that was gone. Told me about the fights with Courtney, the stress, the way the kids could sense something was wrong. Told me about the foundation issue. Showed me the inspection report on his phone. Real documents, real problems. The foundation truly needed work. $80,000. If they didn't fix it, they couldn't sell the house even if they wanted to. They were trapped. Then he said something I'd waited my whole life to hear. "I know Mom and Dad screwed up with you. I know I benefited from that. It wasn't fair." First time Trevor had ever acknowledged it. Ever admitted that our childhoods were different. My guard lowered, just a fraction. He pulled out more paperwork. Mortgage statements, job rejection letters, bank statements showing declining balances. Everything looked legitimate. Everything pointed to a man in real trouble. "Here's the thing," he said. "I'm not asking for 50,000. That was Mom and Dad's number. They think big. They always have. I'm asking for 25,000. I'll pay you back within 6 months of getting a new job. I'll put it in writing. Legal contract. Interest if you want it. Whatever makes you comfortable." He slid a folder across the table. "I'd already had my lawyer draft something," he said. "Just needs your approval and both our signatures." I looked at the contract. It was real. Legal language, repayment terms, interest rate, everything official. Trevor leaned forward. "I'm your brother, man. I know I was the golden child. I know they treated you like garbage. But that wasn't my fault. I was just a kid too. I didn't ask for that. And now I'm asking you, not as the favorite son, but as someone who needs help, as family." He was good. He was really good. Playing on brotherhood, on the idea that we were both victims of our parents' favoritism, making it about us versus them instead of him versus me. I sat there, torn. I'd worked hard for my money. $25,000 wouldn't break me. My business was successful. I could afford it. And maybe, just maybe, this was a chance to have a real relationship with Trevor, to be actual brothers instead of strangers who shared parents. Amy's voice echoed in my head, warning me, telling me this was a mistake, but I wanted to believe people could change. Wanted to believe Trevor was genuine. Wanted to believe that maybe something good could come from all this pain. I agreed. $25,000. Legal contract. 6 months repayment after you get a job. Trevor's face lit up. Seriously? Thank you, man. Thank you so much. This saves us. He reached across the table, shook my hand. Then he stood up and hugged me. First hug we'd shared in years, maybe ever. It felt significant, important. Like maybe we were turning a corner. We stayed for another hour. Talked about sports, about work, about life. Surface stuff, but it felt like progress. For the first time in my memory, I felt like I had a brother. Not a competitor. Not someone who took everything. Just a brother. We split the check. He thanked me 3 more times before we left. Over the next week, I had my lawyer review Trevor's contract. Made a few small adjustments. Nothing major. Trevor signed without hesitation. Didn't push back on anything. I transferred $25,000 from my business account to his personal account. Watched the numbers change on my screen. Felt a weird mix of anxiety and hope. Trevor sent a text immediately. "You're a lifesaver. I won't forget this." Followed by a photo of him and Courtney with the kids, all of them smiling. Family photo. "Thanks, Uncle Cody," the text read. 2 weeks passed. I felt good about my decision. Amy was skeptical but supportive. "If this is what you need to do to move forward, I'm with you," she'd said. My business kept growing. Landed another major client. Hired 2 more employees. Life was good. I'd helped my brother. Maybe we'd build something from this. Then, late on a Thursday night, I was scrolling through Instagram before bed, mindless browsing. That's when I saw them. Trevor's posts from 3 days ago, a series of photos from Napa Valley. Expensive resort, wine tasting, fancy dinners, Trevor and Courtney in a hot tub overlooking a vineyard, sunset photos, selfies with wine glasses, comments from friends. "You guys deserve this getaway. Living your best life. Looks amazing." My blood went cold. This was right after I'd given him $25,000. Right after he'd told me they were desperate. Drowning. I clicked through every photo. The resort looked 5-star. The restaurants looked expensive. The wine bottles in the photos had labels I recognized from high-end shops. This wasn't a cheap weekend. This was thousands of dollars. I called Trevor immediately. Straight to voicemail. Texted. "Saw your Napa posts. Interesting use of emergency funds." Watched the screen. Delivered. Read. Typing. Stopped. Typing again. Finally, an hour later, a response. "Courtney's parents surprised us with the trip. Paid for everything. Anniversary gift. Not from your money." But something felt wrong. The timing. The extravagance. The fact that he'd never mentioned an anniversary trip. Never mentioned Courtney's parents being involved. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to take him at his word. But that cold feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I couldn't sleep. At 2 in the morning, I got up, went to my office, and did something I'd told myself I wouldn't do. I called a friend who works as a private investigator. We'd met through my business. I'd helped his company with their digital marketing. He owed me a favor. "I need you to look into someone," I said. "My brother. I think he might have lied to me about something." My friend didn't ask questions. "Give me a week," he said. The next 7 days were torture. I tried to focus on work, tried to act normal. Amy knew something was wrong, but I didn't tell her. Didn't want to admit I might have been played. Didn't want to look like an idiot. The PI called on day 7. "We need to meet." His voice was serious. We met at a coffee shop, same one where I'd met Amy years ago. He slid a folder across the table. "I'm sorry, man." He was right to be. Trevor had lied about almost everything. Yes, he'd been laid off, that was true. But he'd gotten a new job 5 months ago. Different company. Salary was slightly lower but still solid. $90,000 a year. Nothing desperate about that. The foundation issue was real, but the actual estimate was $40,000, not $80,000, and Trevor had already paid for it. Last month, using a loan from Courtney's parents. The house was fine, being repaired, no emergency. The Napa trip. Trevor had paid for it himself, using my money. Courtney's parents hadn't given them anything. It was a complete lie. Credit cards weren't maxed out. Bank statements showed available credit. They weren't drowning. They were comfortable. Trevor had scammed me for $25,000 he didn't actually need. Had spent it on a luxury vacation while telling me he was desperate. I sat in that coffee shop and felt like the biggest fool in the world. Amy had warned me. Every instinct had warned me. But I'd wanted so badly to believe in family, in brotherhood, that I'd walked straight into it. I drove home in a daze, told Amy everything, showed her the report. She held me while I processed it. "I'm so sorry," she said. But her voice also carried frustration. "I tried to tell you." "I know," I said. "I know." I spent the night deciding what to do. By morning, I knew. I drove to Trevor's house. Wednesday evening. Didn't call ahead. Didn't warn him. Just showed up. He answered the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt. "Cody, what are you doing here?" I walked past him into his house. I know everything. The job. The actual foundation cost. Napa. All of it. His face changed. The friendly brother mask slipped. He tried to laugh it off. "Come on, man. Don't be dramatic." I pulled out the PI report, threw it on his kitchen counter. "You committed fraud. I have a legal contract. I want my money back." Now, Trevor's expression hardened. "I don't have it. I spent it. So you have 30 days per the contract. Pay me back or I'm taking you to court." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Go ahead, sue me. You know what will happen? Mom and Dad will side with me. You'll be cut out completely. You'll never see anyone in this family again. Is $25,000 worth losing your family forever?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw him clearly for the first time maybe ever. "I don't have a family. I have people who use me." I walked out, slammed the door, sat in my car shaking with rage. I told Amy I wanted to pursue legal action. She agreed. "We're not letting him get away with this." My lawyer sent Trevor a demand letter. Formal, legal, 30 days to repay or face a lawsuit. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 3 days later, a process server showed up at my office. I'd been served. Trevor was suing me. I opened the documents with my lawyer on the phone, and my hands started shaking. Trevor claimed I'd verbally agreed the $25,000 was a gift, not a loan. Claimed the contract was signed under duress. Claimed I'd been harassing him and his family. He'd filed for a restraining order. Included screenshots of my texts, which he'd edited to make me look threatening. Included testimony about my unannounced visit, framing it as aggressive and scary. He'd twisted everything. Made himself the victim. Made me the bad guy. Now I had to defend myself in court. Had to prove it was a loan, not a gift. Had to fight a restraining order. Legal fees were going to cost thousands. The stress was crushing. Work suffered. I missed deadlines. My employees noticed. Amy tried to support me, but I was barely functional. Then the final blow. My parents sent me a message. Text, not even a call. "We're disappointed in you. Leave your brother alone. He's been through enough. Stop harassing him, or we'll take legal action too." They'd chosen sides. Officially. Completely. Cut me off. Trevor had won again. He'd taken my money, lied to my face, and turned my parents against me. Again. Just like always. I sat in my apartment that night, Amy beside me, and felt like I'd lost everything. Lost money, lost family, faced a lawsuit. Everything I'd tried to fix had made it exponentially worse. I'd fallen into a trap with no way out. "What do I do?" I asked Amy. She held me tight. "We fight," she said. "We fight smart." The next 2 weeks were the darkest I'd experienced since my wedding day. Maybe darker. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. My business, the thing I'd built from nothing, started suffering. Clients noticed. One of my account managers had to step in on a major pitch because I couldn't get my thoughts together. Amy found me at 3 in the morning multiple times, sitting in the dark, staring at legal documents. Then one night, Amy sat me down at our kitchen table, put her hands over mine, looked me straight in the eye. "We're not doing this," she said. "What?" I asked, falling apart. "Letting them win. You're better than this. We fight smart, Cody. Not desperate, not defeated. Smart." She reminded me of something I'd forgotten in the chaos. I had resources, intelligence, documentation. I'd built a multi-million-dollar business from $800 and determination. I wasn't helpless. I'd just been acting like it. The next morning, I called my lawyer, set up a meeting for that afternoon. Brought Amy with me. My lawyer's name is Patrick Hayes. Early 50s, experienced in civil litigation, and brutally honest. He spread Trevor's lawsuit out on his conference table. "Okay," he said, "let's break this down. Trevor's case hinges on proving this was a gift, that you intended no repayment, that the contract is somehow invalid. Can he prove that?" I shook my head. "Do you have evidence it was a loan?" I started thinking. Started remembering the lunch conversation. Trevor had explicitly called it a loan, said he'd pay me back. But that was verbal. My word against his. Then I remembered something. I'd recorded it, not secretly. I'd told Trevor I was taking notes on my phone for my own records, asked if he minded if I recorded, and he'd agreed. Washington is a two-party consent state for recording. I had his permission. And I had the audio. Patrick's eyes lit up. "You recorded the conversation?" I pulled out my phone, scrolled back through my recordings. There it was. 48 minutes of Trevor explaining his situation, explicitly calling it a loan, promising repayment. Patrick listened to the whole thing. Then he looked at me. This changes everything. Trevor's entire case just fell apart. We spent the next hour pulling together evidence. The recording, the text messages where Trevor thanked me for the loan, the signed contract, bank transfer records showing $25,000 clearly marked as loan repayment due. Then Patrick asked, "Is there anything else? Any other documentation?" I thought about the PI report. Showed him. Patrick read through it carefully. "This proves Trevor lied about his situation to induce you to loan him money," Patrick said. "That's fraud. Intentional misrepresentation to obtain funds. We're not just defending against his lawsuit. We're going on offense." Patrick started drafting a countersuit. Fraud, breach of contract, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We'd demand full repayment of $25,000 plus interest, legal fees, and damages. But Patrick wanted more evidence. He wanted to prove a pattern. I remembered something the PI had mentioned. Something about Trevor doing this before. I called him back, asked him to dig deeper. 2 days later, he called with gold. "Found something," he said. 3 years ago, Trevor borrowed $15,000 from Courtney's brother. Same story, same desperate situation. Never paid it back. Eventually, the brother stopped asking, just wrote it off. Wanted to avoid family drama. The PI had found social media posts from 3 years back. Courtney's brother, Ryan, had posted cryptically about family who take advantage, about loans that become gifts through manipulation. The PI reached out to Ryan, explained the situation. Ryan was willing to talk, willing to provide a statement. Trevor had done to him exactly what he'd done to me. Patrick incorporated this into our countersuit, showed a pattern of fraudulent behavior, made Trevor look like a con artist who targeted family members. The countersuit was filed. Comprehensive, devastating. Attached the recording, the texts, the PI report, Ryan's statement, everything. Trevor's lawyer received it, and I imagine called Trevor immediately. Days later, Patrick got a call. "They want to settle," Patrick told me. Trevor's lawyer had reviewed our evidence. Knew they couldn't win, advised Trevor to settle. Avoid court. Avoid public records that would show what he'd done. But Trevor refused. Too proud. Too arrogant. Still thought he could manipulate his way out. That's when my parents escalated. Gerald and Linda found out about the countersuit. Hired an expensive lawyer for Trevor. Threw money at the problem. Tried to bury me in legal fees. Sent me a certified letter. Official. Cold. Legal language that said I was disinherited. Removed from the will entirely. Everything would go to Trevor. They'd made their choice. Final. Absolute. They also started a campaign in their social circle. Told everyone who'd listen that I was mentally unstable. Vindictive. That I'd gone after Trevor for no reason. Some mutual family friends reached out. confused, concerned. I had to explain the truth over and over. Show them evidence. Some believed me, some didn't. It was exhausting, humiliating. Every day felt like a battle. My business suffered more. I missed another deadline. Lost a potential client because I wasn't on my game during a pitch. My employees started worrying. I could see it in their faces. Whispered conversations that stopped when I walked by. Amy suggested I take a step back, delegate more. Let my management team handle things while I dealt with the lawsuit. I hated the idea. The business was mine, my creation. But she was right. I was letting Trevor and my parents destroy everything I'd built. I promoted my best account manager to interim director, gave her authority to make decisions, trusted my team to keep things running. It was hard, but necessary. I couldn't be in court and running the company simultaneously. Not effectively. The court date got set. 3 months away. I spent those months preparing. Patrick was thorough. We had mock depositions, prepared responses to every possible argument, reviewed evidence repeatedly, made sure everything was airtight. Then, 1 month before court, something unexpected happened. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Hello? A woman's voice crying. It's Courtney. I need to talk to you. Alone. Trevor can't know. Every alarm bell in my head went off. Is this another setup? I asked. No, she said. Please. I can't do this anymore. Her voice sounded broken, desperate, real. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop across town. Somewhere neither Trevor nor my parents would see us. I told Amy where I was going. Texted her the address. If I'm not back in 2 hours, call me. She nodded. Be careful. When I got there, Courtney was already sitting in a back corner booth. She looked terrible, exhausted. Makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. She'd lost weight. Her hands shook around her coffee cup. I sat down, said nothing, waited. She started crying immediately. I didn't know, she said, about the scam. He told me it was a real loan, that he'd pay you back. When I saw him spending the money in Napa, I confronted him. That's when he admitted everything. I listened, skeptical, waiting for the trap. She continued. He's done this before. To my brother. To friends. He always gets away with it because your parents bail him out. Cover for him. Make it go away. She said she was considering leaving him. Actually leaving. Taking the kids. She couldn't be part of this anymore. It's wrong, she said. What he did to you is wrong. What your parents are doing is wrong. She reached into her bag, pulled out a USB drive, slid it across the table. It's all here. Everything. I picked it up. What is this? Evidence, she said. Emails between Trevor and Gerald planning the original family meeting. Trevor's words, strategy for manipulating me. Dad's advice on how to apply pressure. Text messages between Trevor and Linda. Mom coaching him on what to say during our lunch. How to make it seem genuine. How to play on brotherhood and guilt. Financial records showing Trevor's actual situation. Bank statements. Pay stubs from his new job. Proof he'd already fixed the foundation. Everything. I stared at the USB drive. Why are you giving me this? She looked up at me with red eyes. Because I have to live with myself. Because my daughters deserve better than growing up thinking this is how family treats each other, because you didn't deserve this. She stood up. I'll testify, she said, in court. I'll provide everything. I'll tell the truth. Then she left. Walked out of the coffee shop and left me sitting there with a weapon that could destroy Trevor completely. I drove home in silence. Plugged the USB drive into my laptop. Amy sat next to me. We went through everything together. It was worse than I'd imagined. The emails between Trevor and Dad were calculated. Cold. Strategic planning on how to extract money from me. Mom's texts to Trevor were coaching sessions, teaching him to fake vulnerability, to play on my emotions. It was a coordinated con, all three of them working together. Using my desire for family against me, Patrick reviewed everything the next day. This is nuclear, he said. This doesn't just win your case. This exposes them all. Trevor for fraud. Your parents for conspiracy. If we use this, Trevor's marriage might end. His reputation will be destroyed. Your parents will be exposed as manipulators. Everyone in their social circle will know. Is that what you want? I sat in Patrick's office and felt the weight of it. I had the power to destroy them all. Complete revenge. Everything they'd done to me, I could return 1,000-fold. But using it meant destroying my niece's family, meant scorching earth, meant becoming like them. Amy's voice, your choice. I support you either way. I had 2 weeks to decide. 2 weeks to choose between justice and mercy. Between proving I was right and taking the high road. The decision crushed me, kept me awake every night. What kind of person did I want to be? The 2 weeks before I had to make my final decision about using Courtney's evidence were torture. Every day I woke up thinking about it. Every night I went to bed with it weighing on my chest. I'd pull up the files on my laptop, read through the emails between Trevor and Dad, the coaching texts from Mom. Each time I read them, I felt that familiar rage building. They'd played me, treated my emotions like game pieces. My desire for family, for brotherhood, for parental love, they'd weaponized all of it. Amy never pushed me either way. She'd sit with me in the evenings while I stared at the screen. Sometimes she'd put her hand on my shoulder. Sometimes she'd just be there. One night she said, "Whatever you decide, make sure it's for you. Not for revenge, not to hurt them back, for you. What do you need to move forward?" I thought about that a lot. What did I need? Part of me wanted to see them all exposed. Wanted their friends to know what they'd done. Wanted Trevor's perfect image shattered. Wanted Mom and Dad to face consequences, for once, in their entitled lives. But another part of me, the part Amy had nurtured, the part that had built something good from nothing, that part wondered if destroying them would actually make me feel better, or just make me more like them. Patrick called me 3 days before we had to submit our final evidence list. "We need a decision," he said. "If we're using Courtney's evidence, I need to file it now. If not, we move forward with what we have." Which is still strong, Cody. The recording alone will win your case, but this evidence would obliterate them. I told him I needed 1 more day. He gave it to me. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to visit Amy's parents. Her dad, Tom, was in his garage working on an old Mustang he'd been restoring for a decade. He looked up when I walked in, smiled, tossed me a rag. "Want to help?" We worked in silence for a while. Then I told him everything. The whole story. The wedding, the Porsche, the manipulation, the loan, the lawsuit, the evidence, the choice I had to make. Tom listened without interrupting. When I finished, he set down his wrench, leaned against the workbench. "You know what I've learned in 63 years?" he asked. "Revenge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Doesn't work. But justice, that's different. Justice is about making things right, not making them hurt." He looked at me. "You've already won, son. You built a life they can't touch. You found love they'll never understand. You succeeded without them. Using that evidence, that's not about justice anymore. That's about making them pay. Only you can decide if that's worth it." I drove home and made my decision. Called Patrick in the morning. "We're not using it," I said. "Are you sure?" he asked. "I'm sure. We have enough to win. That's all I need." Patrick was quiet for a moment. "Okay, I'll let them know we're ready for court with our current evidence." "One more thing," I said. "I want you to send a message to Trevor's lawyer. Tell them we have additional evidence we're choosing not to use. Evidence that would be far more damaging than what we've submitted. But we're offering one final chance to settle. Full repayment of $25,000 plus interest, legal fees, and a written apology. If they refuse, we proceed to court with what we have. And if they somehow win, we introduce the additional evidence." Patrick understood. It was leverage without destruction, a show of strength and mercy. Trevor's lawyer called back within 3 hours. "They want to know what the additional evidence is." Patrick's response was perfect. "They'll find out if we need to use it. Right now, they need to decide, settlement or court." Another day passed. Then Trevor's lawyer called again. "They'll settle. But no written apology, just the money." Patrick looked at me. I thought about it. Fine. No apology. I didn't need their words. Words from them meant nothing anyway. The settlement was drawn up. $25,000 principal. $3,000 in interest. $12,000 in legal fees. Total, $40,000. Trevor had to pay it within 30 days. The day the settlement was signed, I felt something lift off my chest. Not happiness exactly, not victory, just relief. It was over. I'd stood up for myself, fought back, won, but I hadn't become them. Hadn't destroyed them just because I could. I'd taken what I needed and walked away. Amy hugged me when I got home. "I'm proud of you," she said. That took strength. More strength than revenge would have. But I wasn't naive. I knew Trevor wouldn't pay easily, and I was right. The 30 days came and went. No payment. Patrick filed for enforcement. The court ordered wage garnishment. Trevor finally paid, but only because he had no choice. I received a check in the mail, $40,000. No note, no message, just a check. I deposited it, felt nothing. It was just money. The real victory was knowing I didn't need them anymore. I donated half to a charity that supports people estranged from their families. $20,000 to help people who'd been through what I'd been through. The other $20,000, Amy and I put toward our future. We'd been talking about having kids, about building our own family, the kind of family that actually shows up for each other. That money felt like a good foundation for that. Then, 6 months after the settlement, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived, handwritten. From Courtney. I opened it carefully, Amy reading over my shoulder. Courtney had left Trevor, filed for divorce. She had primary custody of the girls. She wrote about how giving me that evidence had been a turning point for her. How she'd realized she couldn't raise her daughters in that environment. Couldn't teach them that manipulation and lying were acceptable. She thanked me for showing mercy. For not using the evidence in court. She said it had given her the strength to leave on her own terms, quietly, without scorched earth. The divorce was amicable enough. Trevor got weekends. She got the house. They were co-parenting. The letter included photos of my nieces, Emily and Sarah, 4 and 6 years old. I'd barely known them, barely seen them. Courtney wrote that she wanted them to know their uncle, the real one, not the version Trevor and my parents had painted. She invited us to meet them. "If you want to," she wrote. No pressure. I showed Amy the photos. 2 little girls with bright smiles. My brother's daughters, my nieces. "You want to meet them?" Amy asked. I did. I really did. We met at a park the following Saturday. Courtney brought the girls. They were shy at first, hiding behind their mom. But Amy, the elementary school teacher, knew exactly how to talk to kids. Within 10 minutes, Emily was showing Amy her cartwheel. Sarah was telling me about her favorite book. We spent 2 hours at that park, just being family, the real kind, the showing up kind. When we left, Emily hugged me. "Bye, Uncle Cody. See you later?" I promised her yes. Over the next months, we saw them regularly. Every other Saturday. Sometimes we'd go to the zoo. Sometimes the science center. Sometimes just the park. Courtney was grateful. Trevor never interfered. I suspect he was too embarrassed, too ashamed. My parents never reached out, never apologized. The inheritance went entirely to Trevor. I didn't care. I didn't want their money. Didn't need their approval. Didn't need anything from them. My business continued to grow. We hit $5 million in revenue that year. I promoted my interim director to permanent, hired 5 more employees, moved to a bigger office, won awards for our marketing campaigns, built something I was genuinely proud of. Amy and I bought a house, not as big as my parents' place, but perfect for us. 3 bedrooms, yard for future kids, garage for the Porsche, and yes, I bought Amy her dream car too. A vintage Mustang, 1967, sky blue. Her dad helped us restore it. Weekends in his garage, working together, became some of my favorite memories. One Sunday evening, I was washing both cars in our driveway. Amy was helping, music playing from a speaker. We were laughing about something stupid, spraying each other with the hose like teenagers. A neighbor walked by with her daughter. "Beautiful cars," she said. "Thank you," I replied. "Worked hard for them." Amy kissed my cheek. "I'm proud of you." And standing there in my driveway, water dripping off my hands, music playing, my wife beside me, I realized something. I'd won. Not in court, not with money, not by destroying anyone. I'd won by building a life so good, so full, so genuinely happy that my parents' absence didn't leave a hole. I didn't need their validation, didn't need their approval, didn't need them at all. I had love, I had success, I had peace. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Amy squeezed my hand. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. I looked at her. "At our house? At the cars we'd earned? At the life we'd built? Everything," I said. "And nothing. I'm just happy." She smiled. "Me too." That night, I slept better than I had in years. No anger, no resentment, no wondering what if. Just peace. Complete, absolute peace. Life settled into a rhythm over the next year that felt almost surreal in its normalcy. After 32 years of chaos and disappointment with my family, I'd finally found what peace actually felt like. My business continued thriving. We landed contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies. My team grew to 35 employees. We moved into an even bigger office space with a view of Puget Sound. Every morning I'd arrive at work and feel this quiet satisfaction. This is mine. I built this. Amy and I started trying for a baby. 6 months in, she surprised me with a positive pregnancy test on a random Tuesday morning. I was in the kitchen making coffee when she walked in, held up the stick, tears streaming down her face. I dropped the coffee mug. It shattered on the floor. We stood there in a puddle of coffee and ceramic shards, holding each other, crying and laughing. "We're having a baby," she whispered. "We're going to be parents, real ones." Emily and Sarah, my nieces, became a regular part of our lives. They called Amy Aunt Amy now. Every other Saturday, Courtney would drop them off at our place for the day. We'd take them to museums, parks, movies, teach them to ride bikes, help with homework, be the kind of uncle and aunt they deserved. One afternoon, Sarah, now 7, asked me why Grandma Linda and Grandpa Gerald never came to visit. Kids have a way of asking the hard questions without realizing they're hard. Amy and I had prepared for this. I knelt down to Sarah's level. "Sometimes grown-ups don't get along," I said. "But that's okay, because you have lots of people who love you. Your mom, Aunt Amy, me, your other grandparents. That's what matters." She thought about it for a second, then nodded. "Okay. Want to see my science project?" And just like that, she moved on. Kids are resilient that way. Trevor and I maintained a careful distance. We'd see each other during pickups and drop-offs with the girls. He'd nod. I'd nod. We'd talk about practical things. What time to have them back. Whether Emily needed her allergy medicine. Surface level. Safe. Courtney told me once that Trevor was in therapy, working on himself. I didn't know if it was true or if it would stick. Didn't really matter. He wasn't my responsibility anymore. My only connection to him was through the girls, and that was enough. My parents never reached out, not once. I'd see them occasionally on social media. Mom still posted photos from their country club. Dad still shared articles about golf. They posted pictures with Trevor, with the girls. Never mentioned my name, never acknowledged my existence. At first, seeing those posts would sting, but gradually, the sting faded. They became strangers, people I used to know, people who didn't matter anymore. Then one day, completely out of nowhere, I got a message request on social media, from Mom. My thumb hovered over it for a solid minute. Amy was next to me on the couch. "You don't have to open it," she said. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. "Cody, honey, Dad and I were hoping we could talk. We miss you. We know things have been difficult, but you're still our son. We'd like to meet. Maybe lunch? Let's start fresh. Mom?" I read it 3 times. Amy read it over my shoulder. "What do you think it means?" she asked. I had a pretty good idea. Started fresh meant they wanted to pretend nothing had happened. Wanted to erase the pain, the manipulation, the wedding they skipped, the lawsuit, all of it. Just move forward like none of it mattered. I showed the message to Patrick, my lawyer, just to get his take. He read it and laughed. "Let me guess, they want something. Probably money or access to your success." Classic pattern. Don't engage unless you want more drama. But part of me, that stupid hopeful part that never quite dies, wondered, what if they'd changed? What if therapy, or age, or something had made them realize what they'd lost? What if this was genuine? I talked to Amy about it for hours. We sat in our backyard, watched the sunset, weighed the options. She was cautious. "I don't trust them," she said. "But if you need closure, if you need to hear them out to truly move on, then I support you. Just protect yourself. Don't go in expecting them to be different. Expect them to be exactly who they've always been. If they surprise you, great. If not, you're prepared." I decided to meet them. Neutral location. A restaurant downtown. 1 hour. That's it. I responded to Mom's message. "Fine. Lunch. Saturday. I'll pick the place." She agreed immediately. Too immediately. That should have been my first warning. Amy offered to come, but I said no. This was something I needed to do alone. If things went south, I didn't want her dragged into it. Saturday arrived. I got to the restaurant early. A nice place, but not too fancy. Somewhere public enough that they couldn't make a scene. My parents arrived 15 minutes late. Mom looked older. More gray in her hair, lines around her eyes. Dad looked the same. Polo shirt, khakis. That same distant expression. They slid into the booth across from me. Mom smiled. "Cody, you look wonderful." Dad nodded. "Son." We ordered. Small talk followed. Weather, traffic, safe topics. Then Mom got to it. "We've missed you, honey. The house feels empty without you in our lives." I stayed quiet. Waited. Dad chimed in. "We know we've made mistakes. We're not perfect parents, but we love you. We want to fix this. Make things right." Mom reached across the table, tried to take my hand. I pulled back. "Make things right? How?" I asked. Mom's smile faltered slightly. "Well, we thought maybe we could start with family dinners again. Get together regularly. Be a family." I looked at Dad. "You both missed my wedding. Took a vacation instead. Lied to me about helping Trevor. Then threatened to disinherit me when I wouldn't give him money. What exactly are you apologizing for?" Silence. Mom looked uncomfortable. "We've acknowledged we made mistakes," she said carefully. "What more do you want?" That's when I realized Patrick was right. They wanted something. I leaned back in my chair. What is this really about? More silence. Then Dad sighed. "Fine. We'll be direct. Trevor's struggling again. Different job situation. Courtney's child support payments are tight. The divorce was expensive. He needs help. We're helping where we can, but we're also getting older. Thinking about retirement. We can't keep bailing him out." There it was. They weren't here to apologize. They were here to see if I'd become the new bailout source for Trevor. I started laughing. Couldn't help it. The absurdity of it. "You're unbelievable. Both of you." Mom's face hardened. "Don't be cruel, Cody. He's your brother. He's struggling." Family helps family. I stood up. Threw money on the table for my meal. "You want family? Go ask the son you actually raised. The son you chose over and over. I'm done being your backup plan." Dad's voice was sharp. "Sit down. We're not finished." But I was. I walked out of that restaurant and didn't look back. That night, I blocked both of them on everything. Social media, phone, email, complete cutoff. Amy held me while I processed it. "You did the right thing," she said. "They haven't changed. They never will." And I realized she was right. Some people are incapable of change, incapable of real love, incapable of seeing past their own needs. And that was okay, because I'd built a life without them. A good life, a full life. I didn't need them to validate it. 3 months later, Amy went into labor. 18 hours. Long and exhausting. But when they placed our daughter in my arms, this tiny, perfect human with Amy's eyes and my nose, everything else disappeared. We named her Grace. Grace Elizabeth. Amy's parents were in the waiting room, rushed in to meet their granddaughter. Cried and laughed and took a million photos. Courtney brought Emily and Sarah to visit. They were obsessed with their new baby cousin, held her so carefully, promised to teach her everything. My parents never knew Grace was born, never met her, never sent a card or a gift. And I was okay with that. Grace would grow up surrounded by people who actually showed up, who loved her unconditionally. Who would be at her recitals and games and graduations? She'd never know the pain of feeling invisible, of being second choice, of having parents who only called when they needed something. She'd know real family, the chosen kind, the showing up kind, the kind that matters. Grace is 2 years old now. She runs through our house like a tornado of energy and joy. She has Amy's laugh and, according to everyone, my stubborn streak. Every morning, she climbs into our bed at exactly 6:15, presses her tiny hands to my face, and says, "Daddy, up, time for pancakes." And every morning, I make her pancakes, because that's what you do when you're actually present. When you actually love someone, you show up. My business hit $8 million in revenue last year. We've expanded to 2 offices now, one in Seattle and one in Portland. 50 employees, national recognition. I made Forbes' 30 under 40 list. That kid who ate ramen and worked 18-hour days now gets interviewed about success and entrepreneurship. But the thing is, the Porsche and the awards and the money, they're nice. But they're not what makes me proud. What makes me proud is Grace, is Amy. Is the family dinners every Sunday at Tom and Helen's house? Is Emily and Sarah's school plays where Amy and I sit in the front row and cheer too loud? Is the life I built that has nothing to do with my parents and everything to do with choice? I ran into Trevor about 6 months ago. Random encounter at a grocery store. We both froze for a second. Then he did something unexpected. He walked over. "Cody," he said, "I owe you an apology. A real one. What I did to you, the loan, the manipulation, all of it, it was wrong. I was wrong. I've been working on myself. Therapy. Actually dealing with my issues instead of making them everyone else's problem. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed you to know I'm sorry." I looked at him, studied his face. He looked different, older, tired, maybe genuine, maybe not. "I don't know if I forgive you," I said, "but I appreciate you saying it." He nodded. "How's your family?" he asked. "Good," I said. "Really good." His smile was sad. "I'm glad. You deserve better than how I treated you, than how they treated you. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." We stood there for another moment. Then I said, "I hope therapy works for you. I mean that." And I did. Not for me. For Emily and Sarah. They deserved a father who'd done the work, who was present, who wouldn't repeat the cycle. We parted ways, haven't seen him since. My parents reached out one more time, about 8 months ago. Email this time. Subject line, "Important family matter." I almost deleted it without reading. But Amy said, "Your choice, but maybe there's closure in it." I opened it. Dad had been diagnosed with early-stage prostate cancer. Treatable, good prognosis. But it had shaken them, made them think about mortality, about legacy. The email said they wanted to make amends, wanted to meet Grace, wanted to be in our lives, real this time. I sat with that email for a week, read it dozens of times, showed it to Tom, Amy's dad. He gave me the best advice. He said, "Forgiveness isn't about them deserving it. It's about you not carrying their weight anymore. But forgiveness doesn't mean you have to let them back in. You can forgive someone and still keep them at a distance. You can wish them well and still protect your peace." I thought about Grace, about the kind of grandfather Gerald had been to Trevor's kids. Distant, conditional, critical. Did I want that for my daughter? Did I want her to learn that love comes with conditions? That family is about what you can provide rather than who you are? I responded to the email. "I'm sorry about the diagnosis. I hope treatment goes well, but I'm not interested in rebuilding a relationship. You had 34 years to be my parents. You chose not to show up. I've made peace with that. I've built a life I'm proud of, a family that actually functions. I wish you well. But we're done. Take care of yourselves." I hit send before I could second-guess it. Amy read it over my shoulder. "That was perfect," she said. "Clear, kind, final." And it was final. I haven't heard from them since. Here's what I learned through all of this. Family isn't about DNA. It's about showing up. It's about being present when it matters, and even when it doesn't. It's about loving people not for what they can give you, but for who they are. My parents gave me life, but Amy's parents taught me how to live. My brother shared my childhood, but Amy showed me what partnership actually means. The family I was born into failed me, but the family I chose, the family I built, they saved me. Success isn't about cars or money or proving people wrong. It's about building a life so full of love and purpose that the people who didn't believe in you become irrelevant. My parents only saw my worth when I posted a photo with a Porsche, but Amy saw my worth when I was nobody, when I was just a guy with a dream and $800. That's the difference. That's everything. I forgave my parents, not because they deserved it, because I deserved peace, because carrying anger is exhausting, because I wanted to be fully present for Grace, for Amy, for the life I'd built. Forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was okay. It means I'm no longer letting it define me. It means I'm free. Last week, Grace looked up at me during breakfast and said, "Daddy, why don't I have a Grandpa Gerald and Grandma Linda like Emily and Sarah?" I knelt down to her level. "Some people aren't in our lives, sweetheart, but you have Grandpa Tom and Grandma Helen and Aunt Courtney, and Uncle Cody takes care of you, and Mommy and Daddy love you so much. Is that enough?" She thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "Okay, can I have more pancakes?" And just like that, it was enough. Because I'd given her what my parents never gave me: presence, love, the security of knowing she was wanted. She'd never feel invisible, never feel second best, never question whether her parents would show up. Because we would, every single time. The Porsche is still in my garage. I drive it sometimes. But honestly, my favorite car is Amy's Mustang. Because we restored it together. Because Tom taught me about engines while we worked on it. Because it represents family, the real kind. The kind you choose. The kind that stays. Sometimes I see my parents' friends around town. They don't know about the lawsuit or the manipulation or any of it. They just know I'm successful. They'll say things like, "Your parents must be so proud." I smile politely. Sure. But the truth is, their pride or lack thereof doesn't matter anymore. I'm proud of me. Amy's proud of me. Grace will grow up proud of me. That's what counts. If you're listening to this, and you've experienced something similar, if you've had family that only showed up when it benefited them, if you felt invisible or second best or conditionally loved, I want you to know something. You're not broken. They are. And you can build something better. You can choose your family. You can create a life so full that their absence becomes irrelevant. It takes time. It takes work. It takes therapy and tears and really hard days. But it's possible. I'm living proof. The greatest revenge is no revenge at all. It's building a life so good that you forget to be angry. It's choosing peace over proving a point. It's showing up for the people who show up for you. It's breaking cycles instead of repeating them. My parents taught me what not to do, and in a weird way, that was the most valuable lesson they ever gave me. I know exactly what kind of parent I don't want to be. And every day, I choose differently. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own peace? Have you ever had to walk away from people you loved because they couldn't love you back the right way? How did you find the strength to build something new? I'd love to hear your stories. Share them in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, if it helped you feel less alone or gave you hope that you can build something better, please hit that like button. It helps others find these stories. Subscribe to the channel for more real talk about family, success, and finding your way when the path isn't clear, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who's struggling with family issues or feeling invisible, or wondering if things can get better. They can. I promise they can. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope you're surrounded by people who see you, who value you, who show up for you. And if you're not there yet, I hope you're building toward it. One choice at a time, one boundary at a time, one day at a time. You deserve a life where you're not just tolerated, but celebrated. Where you're not just included, but cherished. Go build that. You're worth it. Take care of yourselves. Show up for the people who show up for you. And remember, the best family is the one you choose. Be well.